Hello everyone. On 28 April, Rahul Gandhi, the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, visited the Great Nicobar Island, met with tribal communities leaders and called the Great Nicobar Development Project one of the gravest crimes committed against India's natural and tribal heritage. 3 days later, the government issued an official press note defending this project. Congress called it damage control, while the BJP accused Congress of working against India's national security interest. In the middle of all this political noise, most people still do not know what this project actually is, why the government consider it essential, and whether the concerns being raised are generally valid or not. So let's understand this topic. Hello everyone. The Great Nicobar Island Development Project was conceived by Niti Aayog in 2021, approved by Union Cabinet and is being implemented by the Andaman and Nicobar Island Integrated Development Corporation. The official cost confirmed by Ministry of Environment to the Rajya Sabha is over Rs 81,000 crore, making it one of the largest infrastructure projects ever undertaken in India's island territories. It will build over 30 years in phases, with Phase 1 target for completion by 2028 and full completion expected by 2050. The project covers 166 square kilometers, approximately 10% of Great Nicobar total 910 square kilometers, and has 4 main components. First, an international container transshipment terminal at Galthia Bay, designed to handle up to 16 million tons of cargo annually. Second, a greenfield international airport with a 3,300-meter runway, designed for both civilian and military use. Third, an integrated township plan to house a projected population of over 3.5 lakh people. And fourth, a 450 megawatt hybrid gas and solar power plant for energy and self-sufficient. So the question is, why is the government pushing this project so badly? So let's understand this. The government case rests on 3 pillars: economic, strategic and geographic. And when you look at the numbers, the argument is generally strong. On the economic side, Great Nicobar sits approximately 40 nautical miles from east-west international shipping lane that carries between 25 to 30% of all global trade near the Malacca Strait, with around 94,000 ships pass through annually. Currently, India's port lacks deep water berth for the largest container vessels, so Indian cargo is rerouted through either Colombo or Singapore, which make India port revenue every single year costly. The government estimates the transshipment terminal could generate Rs 30,000 crore in annual revenue by 2040 and create over 1 lakh direct jobs and 1.5 lakh indirect jobs. On the strategic side, Great Nicobar gives India permanent forward presence at one of the world's most critical maritime choke points. India's only tri-service military command, the Andaman and Nicobar Command, which already operates from Port Blair and Ines Bash Naval Air Station, is already operational at Camp Bell Bay on Great Nicobar. The new dual-use airport and deep water port would dramatically expand India's ability to monitor Chinese naval activity across the Bay of Bengal and the Eastern Indian Ocean, directly countering China's string of pearls strategy of building ports and the bases surrounding India from Pakistan to Sri Lanka and to Africa. Now here is where the story becomes more complex, and I want to be precise with every number because this is where the most disputed claims live. On the environment perspective, the project involves diversion of 130 square kilometers of pristine rainforest. On the number of trees, the government official estimate submitted to Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is 8.5 lakh trees. Independent environmental experts and scientists have called this figure a gross underestimate, with conservative independent estimates ranging from 6 to 12 million trees. These are two very different numbers and no single independent verified figure has been agreed upon by all parties. Great Nicobar is also a great biodiversity hotspot, a UNESCO recognized biosphere reserve hosting around 200 bird species and 85% of forest cover. Galthia Bay, where the transshipment terminal is proposed, is India's most critical nesting site for the endangered giant leatherback turtle and was denotified as a wildlife sanctuary in 2021, specifically to allow port construction to proceed. The island also sits in a seismically sensitive zone. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, whose epicenter was near the Nicobar Island, caused Great Nicobar southern tip to sink by approximately 15 feet and wipe out most of its coastal settlements. Geologists in July 2025 warned that ongoing cluster of small earthquake near the island could indicate increased seismic activity. Now when it comes to tribal right, this island is home to a two particularly vulnerable tribal group, the Shompen, a hunter-gatherer community of fewer than 300 individuals who have lived near complete isolation for centuries. Yes, for centuries. And the Nicobaris, who were displaced from their ancestral coastal village by 2004 tsunami and have since sought to return to those same villages which now fall within the project development area. On the question of consent, the Tribal Council of Great and Little Nicobar Island initially provided consent for the project in August 2022. However, 3 months later, the Tribal Council formally withdrew this consent after learning the project would permanently destroy their pre-tsunami ancestral village. Despite this formal withdrawal, the project has proceeded with regulatory clearance. A petition filed in Calcutta High Court by a former secretary of both Tribal Affairs and Environmental alleged that the forest rights certificate used to grant clearance is void and that a tribal welfare officer was appointed to give consent on behalf of Shompen, which has no provision under the Forest Rights Act. In February 2024, 39 genocide experts from 13 countries formally warned that the project will be a death sentence for Shompen. The government position is very clear. The Green Tribunal in February 2026 upheld the environmental clearance after a high-power committee review, concluding that due procedure had been followed. The government states that only 1.82% of total Andaman and Nicobar forest cover is being diverted, that 42 specific environmental conditions govern that the clearance and that no development will take place within designated tribal reserve areas. So here is where we actually stand. The strategic and economic case for Great Nicobar is real, documented and significant. India needs this kind of forward maritime presence and reducing dependence on foreign ports, which is a sound and national objective. But the environmental and tribe concerns are equally real, documented and significant. And they come not just from politicians, but from genocide experts, former civil servants, independent scientists, and the tribal communities themselves whose consent was formally withdrawn.